Good morning. Welcome to the John Mendola Show here on WILK. And, we're getting through this weather a little bit, kind of warm up and getting to the 60s today after yesterday was cold, miserable, and wet. But we'll move on here and hopefully get a little better weather for the rest of this weekend. And then we'll get back to the 50s next week, and that's what April's all about. But nonetheless, playing some baseball and softball here in northeastern Pennsylvania. And that's going to be the theme of the show today, as we're going to talk with the Scranton Knights in studio with us today, the baseball team with Coach Jamie Higgins. We'll get to them coming up here in a moment. Also, Hanover area softball. They'll be live in studio with us today. And how about Matt Wotherspoon? You heard of him, right? The guy from Mountaintop, Crestwood, Pitt. Been in the Yankee system, now the Orioles, and got called up this week. We're going to check in with Matt this morning and see how his week has gone. Live the childhood dream, I guess. So it'll be great to check in with him. And he's been on our show the last several years, and now something really, really exciting for him to talk about. So we'll get with Matt coming up just a little bit here on the John Mendola Show. Well, let's talk some baseball and welcome in Jamie Higgins, the head coach at Scranton. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Good.
I've been lucky this year, with the weather. It's kind of cooperated more so than the last few years. However, in our situation, our baseball field's kind of on the back burner for now and getting worked on. So we really haven't got to practice on our field, but we have access to the turf field at the football stadium, and the University of Scranton's been kind enough to find us some slots to fit us in there. So we've been out quite a bit. It's just we're all around, and it kind of makes it difficult on the kids and for me to tell them, hey, a practice is I don't know where the next day, so just be in touch. But they've been accepting of it, and we've been able to get some good work in no matter where we end up.
Yeah, we talked to the Blue Ridge last week, the baseball team. They're down in West Virginia. It was their first time they got out for a game. They were out for practice once prior to that. So you got some teams, in the outlying areas that have to deal with that stuff. You guys have about 7 games under your belt so far?
Yeah, it's again with the weather, it just kind of cooperated. We were out March 16th at Dummer High School on their football field, which is kind of unique. We've never been in that situation before. It's a little different. You could play a softball game on a turf field. I never played a baseball game on it, but we made it work, and really to get out March 16th and get some work in. It was a little cold, but the alternative, especially for the last couple of years, is staying in the gym. And there's been times when, like you said, with Blue Ridge, we haven't got out in a field until our first game. So I think a lot of every team is in the same situation. So. Playing baseball here in this part of the state, you get used to it, all right? And I think, mentally, you have to get used to it. You have to understand that, there's going to be situations where you're going to be doing stuff inside that you normally do outside. And, if you preach that to the kids, that every little thing that we do, no matter whether it's in a parking lot, it's in a batting cage, it's in the gym, it's all going to matter. It's all going to translate to the baseball diamond.
Well, we are going to talk a little bit here about your team coming up. We have some guys in studio, and I figure I might as well check in and ask you about the McCarthy boys who came through the program there at Scranton, and just to check in with them. How are those guys doing as far as their baseball careers right now?
I believe Joe is still on the mend, so and hopefully he gets back soon and healthy. I think he's looking to have a big year being on the 40-man roster. So. We have, no matter what his situation is, we'll always support him and hopefully get to see him here in, I think mid-June, the Durham Bulls are coming. So hopefully there's a big crowd that comes see him play, and he's healthy and he's playing well. I believe Jake started in high A, and I think his first game was last night. So he's where he needs to be, and both of those guys are just, they're always going to end up on their feet. They're hard workers, all right? They understand the professional mentality you have to succeed on that level. And, with their athletic ability and their discipline, they'll be fine. And you hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll see them in the big leagues sooner than later. Yeah,
let's keep rooting for those guys, and hopefully Joe gets a little healthier there and getting through some of these injuries that he's had. Coach, we're going to take a time out. We'll come back. We'll talk to you about your team this year. We'll get to some of the guys here from Scranton. We are going to have our baseball and softball magazines out in the next few days, so we'll get you those locations next week. You could always follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and check out the locations. Of course, you could get one at any McCarthy Tire Service in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Kingston, Hazleton. Those will be the locations for McCarthy Tire for our baseball and softball magazine that is upcoming. Well, we come back here on the John Mendola Show. We're going to continue that conversation with the Scranton Knights baseball program. Let's take a timeout. Let's get over to our local State Farm insurance agent, Frank Sirokatch. Break like a good neighbor. Frank Sirokatch is there. We'll be back on WILK.